The UFC are doing everything they can to get the belt off Belal Muhammad. They're already feeding him to the wolves and giving him to the welterweight boogeyman of the division in Shavkat Rakhmonov. Rakhmonov is the third-ranked fighter in the welterweight division, but honestly, it is pretty deserved if you look at the rankings. Keep in mind, the two fighters ahead of Shavkat Rakhmonov in the rankings are Leon Edwards and Kamaru Usman. And Leon Edwards doesn't really deserve a rematch. He got battered by Belal when they fought. If anything, Leon should fight for a title eliminator against Sean Brady or Jack Maddalena. But on top of that, Kamaru Usman is the second-ranked fighter in the welterweight division. And let's be real here. Kamaru Usman hasn't fought since last year, and he's on a 3-fight skid, and his last fight was at 185. If he wants to make a comeback at welterweight, he should fight one of these other top-ranked contenders in Colby Covington or even Sean Brady. But to the point, I think this fight is a great matchup overall. You know, Belal Muhammad, I'm gonna be real, I'm not a big fan of his fighting style. He is a crotch sniffer. It's sometimes annoying to watch him fight. Like the Vicente Luque fight really pissed me off. Same with the Burns fight. But I can't deny the guy's talent. He's a good fighter. He demolished Leon Edwards through all 5 rounds. He was piecing him up pretty well on the feet. And, you know, he just dictated the whole pace of the fight. It was a beatdown. Let's be real here. And on top of that, Shavkat Rakhmonov is a certified killer. He is a fucking assassin, bro. The guy is violence in the making. Like, he destroyed Wonder Boy Thompson. He choked him out quickly, too. He just took him down, got it over with. And the Jeff Neal fight was fantastic, too. It was a crazy war between those two. Both guys were going back and forth, just hitting each other with haymakers, and it was a bloody mess, to say the least. It was a fun fight. He ended up persevering and choked him out. So this fight could be entertaining, and I think Shavkat will bring the entertaining factor in the octagon against Belal. It'll really push Belal to see if he can persevere and get this fight done. And it's going to be a real testament to how this fight's going to go. How good is Belal's wrestling compared to Rakhmonov's? We don't know. We're going to find out. And personally, I think Shavkat's just going to pull it through. There's just something about Shavkat, man. Like, these guys from that region out there, bro, from like Kazakhstan, all those places, dude, they eat and breathe MMA. And not to say that Belal doesn't. Not to say that Belal doesn't eat and breathe and train every day, but it's just like, it's in their DNA, man. It's in this guy's DNA to just come out here and Belal Muhammad somehow pulls this through. Man, it just goes to show that he's a top-tier champion. But he is getting older. I'm not going to deny that. He is 35, and even though his last fight was a great performance, Shavkat Rakhmonov has still got a long way to go in his UFC career. And early on, in the early signs he has shown in the 6 fights he's had in the UFC, it's been absolute chaos. So I think if the fight were to end, I'm going to take Shavkat Rakhmonov to maybe knock him out in the later rounds or choke him out. I'm going to go with a Shavkat finish. I'm going to go with a 4th-round finish. But on top of that, that's not the only fight that was announced for this UFC 310 card. Alexandre Pantoja, the Brazilian maniac of flyweight. The flyweight, I'm not going to say the GOAT because Demetrius Johnson is the GOAT, but he is one of the best flyweight fighters of all time, to say the least. And he's fighting against Kai Asakura. Kai Asakura is getting a championship fight on his debut. That's something I haven't seen in a long time. I'm going to be real here. I think one of the times we saw that was with, I believe, Gilbert Melendez when he came from Strikeforce and fought Benson Henderson. And another time, I can't name it, but I remember that to be exact. But this is a good fight. I'm very intrigued by it. And it kind of makes sense too. If you look at the flyweight division, it's pretty stale. Alexandre Pantoja has cleared it through and through. There's really nobody else for him to fight. Yeah, you could run back Royval for the 3rd time, but is that really necessary when he's beat him twice? I don't think so. And it's going to be a tough fight for Pantoja. It's a different fighting style. I mean, Kai Sakura, he's very aggressive. He's just a maniac in there, bro. I really can't describe his fighting style. Everybody's worried that he's going to get DQ'd because, you know, Pantoja is obviously going to shoot for a takedown. And if you've seen some of Kai Sakura's clips in Ryzen, It's actually berserk. Like, he literally is just like, the guys have their knees on the ground, and he's literally just kneeing them while they're down. Kneeing them, kicking them, doing all this crazy shit. It's like pride fighting back in the day. Like, it is actually nuts to see. And I'm Brazilian. I would like Pantoja to win. It would be good, but I just think, like, if Kaya Sakura wins this fight, the way it'll shake up the flyweight division will really be great for it. Obviously, dominance is great in a division. When you finally get someone new in the pecking order that is holding the title, it just brings more interest in the division. Some people are saying that Albazi deserves the title shot. Man, Albazi's fights are boring. I personally don't want to see it. If he beats Brandon Moreno, feed him to the winner of this fight between Pantoja and Asakura. That makes sense. But he's got to beat Brandon Moreno first before he can get there. But for me, who's going to win this fight? It's hard to pick. We don't know what Asakura is going to bring to the table in the octagon. You know, we've seen his highlights at Ryzen. He's a talented fighter. But, you know, Pantoja has been beating the best of the best for years. And Asakura, he seems to be a bit chinny. You know, he's been hit a couple times, like Manel Cap. He fights in the UFC. He knocked him out. And he's been sleeped by Horiguchi, who was also a former UFC fighter, one of the most dominant champions in Ryzen. So he's fought some killers, and, you know, he's been chinned a couple times. But who's not to say that Pantoja doesn't get tired real quick in the later rounds either? So it's hard to say. I'm going to go with Pantoja with the decision, but I wouldn't mind if Kaya Sakura won this fight. I'm just going to be real here. But let's talk about the other announcements in this card too. This card is overall looking very stacked, man. We're getting Ciryl Gane versus Alexander Volkov 2, which it's a good fight to make. It could be a title eliminator bout, even though the heavyweight division is all messed up with this John Jones and Stipe Miocic bullshit. But I'm not opposed to this fight. It's a great fight to make. I think, you know, Volkov, he's put on some muscle. He's been impressive his last couple of fights. I mean, his last fight, he pieced up Pavlovich. To me, he won that whole fight easily. And Pavlovich is no slouch. I don't think he's the best technically gifted fighter, but at the end of the day, Pavlovich is a killer, bro. He's got power. He comes for the kill when he goes to his fights. But on top of that, Volkov has beaten Tai Tuivasa, and I know Tai Tuivasa has fallen down the pecking order in the rankings and has been through a bit of a skid, but nonetheless, still a tough fighter. But Ciryl Gane, he's been away for a little bit. We haven't seen Ciryl Gane fight in a while. The last time we saw Ciryl Gane fight was against Spivak last year. He dominated that fight. He knocked him out and pieced him up real easily. But look, the thing that you're going to get with this fight with Ciryl Gane and Alexander Volkov, if Volkov were to win the fight, obviously he might have to keep the distance with Ciryl Gane and really pick his punches. But ideally, if he wants to win this fight, he's going to have to take Ciryl Gane down. He's going to have to hurt him. He's going to have to beat him at his worst game possible. Because Ciryl Gane on the feet, he's a nightmare to deal with, dude. He's a 6'4", 250-pound man that moves like a goddamn middleweight. So he's super light on his feet. He's going to throw leg kicks, oblique kicks. He's going to throw the whole nine at you, man. He's going to come at you full throttle, full force. So if Volkov really wants to win this fight, he's got to take him down. So if he takes him down, I could see him winning this fight. Ciryl Gane has beat him before, but this is a new reinvented Volkov. You know, Volkov has been on probably the run of his career. He's won his last 4 fights. He's beaten Rakhmonov. He beat Rosenstrike. So who's to say he can't beat Ciryl Gane? Realistically, I'm going to go with Ciryl Gane. I think he's just going to batter him. Just what I was saying. The oblique kicks. He's really going to push the pace of the fight. He's going to hit him with some heavy right hands. Catch him with the jab. We're going to maybe see a head kick here and there. I just think he's going to piece up Volkov through and through in those 3 rounds. So I'm going Ciryl Gane. I'm going to say it's going to be maybe a round 3 TKO. And the last fight that has been announced for UFC 310 has actually been rescheduled. And personally, I've made a video on this fight before. I am not happy that they rescheduled this fight. And it's Vicente Luque versus Nick Diaz. It doesn't make sense to me. You know, Vicente Luque he is washed. Like, he gave up against Joaquin Buckley, but at the end of the day, he's still a ranked fighter. He's still Vicente Luque. He's a tough fighter. Nick Diaz, on the other hand, we saw him fight Robbie Lawler. It wasn't a good fight at all, and obviously he had been gone from the sport for a very long time. Nothing against that, with everything he faced with his ban and all that. It's just, the game has changed, dude. The game has changed, and he's not used to it. Vicente Luque is going to chew his legs apart. It's the reality and the legality of the fight. He's going to get pieced up. He's older. He's a lot slower. His striking is not as good as it used to be. And Vicente Luque is better than him on the ground. The matchup is just not good for Nick Diaz. He brings name value, yes. Is everybody going to stop and watch a Nick Diaz fight? Of course. But it doesn't make sense anymore. And I've said in the past that Nick Diaz should retire, or the UFC should just release him, because the poor guy is just trying to get out of his contract. Everybody knows it. Everybody knows he wants to leave the UFC. He wants to make money elsewhere, whether it be boxing, wherever the case may be. So the UFC, to just destroy his stock even more, feed him to a wolf like Vicente Luque, and just get cooked, sucks in my opinion. They should have made him fight Tony Ferguson or fight any other old head in that division. Shit, give him the Core McGee, for crying out loud. Who gives a shit? Or Tim Means. Just something, my guy. Something else, Dana. For the love of God. Okay, but I think Vicente's just going to smoke Nick Diaz. And that sucks to say, because I loved Nick Diaz growing up when I was a kid. So, it sucks. But at the end of the day, that's the card. It's a pretty decent card. They've also got Aljamain Sterling versus Movsar Evloev, and even Dominic Reyes versus Anthony Smith. I cannot complain about this card. It's a decent card. And the UFC are stacking up at the end of the year. And that's great to see. So, I'm excited. Let me know what y'all think in the comments below. Are these matchups great? Who do you think will win? Anyways, guys, good game, boys. Catch you later. Deuces. I'm out. Make sure to subscribe, all right?